What do you do when you learn your wife has turned into an internet meme, and a hypocritical one at that? That's just one of the thoughts swirling in my mind as I viewed the video I had just downloaded from my home server. I watched the video while sitting in one of our data centers early in the morning, waiting for updates to complete on several of our servers. Allow me to explain a bit about myself. My name is Jim Fielding, and I work as an IT specialist for a bank with branches across the state. For the last 5 years, I've been married to Donna and, until now, thought I had a stable marriage. We had even begun discussing starting a family. But sadly, that future was now in question. Donna managed a high-end hair salon downtown, but then the coronavirus pandemic hit. Like so many other businesses, her salon had to close down. Fortunately, I still had a job since banks are considered essential, especially with the stimulus money being lent to businesses to help them survive. Our bank had already instituted a program where most employees could work remotely through VPN, which worked well for me, allowing me to do most of my work from home. However, there were times when I had to drive to one of our data centers or a branch to resolve various issues. The first 2 weeks were great. Donna and I spent lots of time together. However, during the next 2 weeks, things began to get a bit strained. I could tell Donna was eager to return to work, and many others felt the same way. But it seemed like there was something else bothering her. At first, I couldn't pinpoint it, but she became short-tempered and irritable over little things. She hated that I sometimes had to leave to handle problems typically managed by subcontractors. The bank had decided to scale back on its use of subcontractors during the pandemic to save costs, which meant I sometimes had to drive up to 150 miles to take care of tasks like replacing a battery in a branch UPS or performing manual software updates on back-end machines. During that second 2-week period, I began to notice changes in Donna. On several occasions, I thought I caught a whiff of aftershave or cologne when I got home from one of my trips. I didn't use any of that, so I naturally wondered where it was coming from. Perhaps it was from someone she had over while I was gone? But she never mentioned anyone visiting. As time went on and the lockdown continued, her behavior became more erratic. She would often yell at me about trivial matters while I was trying to work. Then the state health department issued a series of new guidelines about social distancing, mask wearing, and other protocols. Some of it didn't make much sense to me, but being an IT person, I figured I'd do my best to follow the rules. However, Donna took things to another level. Let me explain a bit about Donna. She's always been a by-the-book kind of person, which is one reason her salon thrived. She expected her employees to follow the rules, and they did. When the new guidelines were released, she scrutinized them closely, ensuring we adhered to everything the state suggested. If I had to leave for a job, she made sure I wore a mask, had latex gloves, and took hand sanitizer with me, which felt essential during those times. But that wasn't enough for her. When she realized there was no way we could maintain 6 feet of distance in our king-sized bed, she announced that I would have to sleep in the guest room until the crisis was over, which also meant no intimacy. I couldn't believe it. We lived in the same house and had been together all this time. Surely, if we were going to get the virus, we would have already caught it by now. It's only temporary, she insisted. Besides, you know as well as I do that you can have this virus and not show any symptoms. Look, you're out there touching all kinds of things. There's no telling what you might be bringing home, she explained. But no intimacy? I asked. That's outrageous. It's affecting me, too. I don't like it any more than you do, she replied. But the rules are the rules, and we have to follow them. But it didn't stop there. Being someone who followed the rules, Donna decided we could no longer share the same bathroom or eat at the table together, since that would put us closer than 6 feet apart. Donning heavy latex gloves, she divided the dishes into 2 piles, one for me and one for her. We were only allowed to use the dishes from our respective piles and were responsible for washing what we used. And there was more. She insisted we wash our own clothes. Not only were we not sleeping together, but we weren't eating together either. I suspected that soon she would have us cooking our own meals. For all intents and purposes, we had become little more than roommates living under the same roof. Then the mayor announced what some called a snitch line and a website where residents could report neighbors not following the strict guidelines. I understood the mayor's desire to keep residents safe, but I thought this was a bit excessive. I expressed my concern to Donna, but she had a different view. I think it's a great idea, she said. I can't tell you how many times I see people not following the social distancing rules. There's no telling what can happen out there. Well, I'm not going down that road, I replied. Suit yourself, she said. But I intend to make good use of it. You're not going to report our neighbors, are you? I asked, considering several of them to be good friends. The last thing I wanted was for any of them to get into trouble for violating a 6-foot guideline. It's for their own good, Donna huffed. If they don't care enough about their health, someone else needs to take responsibility. But Donna, we have to live next to these people even after the pandemic is over. These are our friends. Well, they'd better follow the rules, she said haughtily. I don't want to see one of us get sick because they were careless. All I'm saying is just be careful. You do know we have sunshine laws in this state, right? If they find out you were the one who reported them, it's going to affect both of us. I don't want to lose any friends over this. If they follow the rules, they have nothing to fear, she replied. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I shook my head and went to my office. That's when I realized my wife had transformed into something of an internet meme. I had read about this in a few articles online. They called them Karens, the suburban women who call the cops on kids having pool parties. One side described them as entitled and self-centered, always looking to complain. As I thought about these descriptions, I could see some of those traits in Donna. God, I hope not, I thought to myself. Over the next few days, I watched her closely. She spent a lot of time by the window, observing what the neighbors were doing. I knew she called the snitch line a couple of times when she saw some neighbor kids playing in a yard across the street. The first time nothing happened, but about an hour after her second call, a police car arrived, and an officer spoke to the kids and one of the parents. After a few tense words were exchanged, the frustrated parent brought her children inside. I only hoped the family never found out that Donna was the one who reported them. There were other signs that things weren't as they should be in our household. I noticed that since the lockdown began, Donna seemed to come up with excuses almost every day to go to Walmart or another store. Normally, she was an organized shopper who made a list for the week's groceries and was in and out quickly. But now, she would be gone for hours, sometimes returning with just a single small item for dinner. I knew there were lines at the store due to capacity restrictions, but something felt off. On top of that, there were days when she would actually get dressed up just to go to Walmart. Who does that? Why not just wear jeans and a sweatshirt like you usually do? I wondered. Why do you have to dress up to go out? I asked her about it a couple of times, but she would only sigh and tell me she simply wanted to look nice. Do you have a problem with me wanting to look nice in public? She shot back, a hint of attitude in her voice. Not at all. I just haven't known you to get all dressed up for Walmart. To make matters worse, several times, she would run straight to the master bathroom, a room I was no longer allowed to use, after returning home, taking a shower right away. Why would she need to do that if all she did was go grocery shopping for 1 or 2 small items? I realized that when it came to women, I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I certainly wasn't clueless. Something was going on, and I was determined to get to the bottom of it. Why did she get dressed up and leave for Walmart every day at about the same time, only to be gone for up to 3 hours? Something definitely felt off. I tried to trust her. After all, I had seen some of the lines outside the stores myself. But 45 days into the lockdown, I knew something wasn't adding up. I pulled out my cell phone and called John Winthrop, an old friend from college who now ran his own private investigative company. "What's up, buddy?" he asked, listening quietly as I explained the situation. "Damn, that doesn't sound good at all," he replied. "Email me a recent picture of Donna, and I'll get started. Maybe you should think about putting some cameras in your house that stream to that server of yours." "Good idea," I said as I emailed a picture of Donna to him. "I've got some cameras here that aren't being used," he told me. "If you want, you can borrow them and set them up. Meet me by your office this afternoon, and I'll get them to you." "That'll work," I said. "I'll be there around 2:30. She's usually back from Walmart by then." "Gotcha," John replied. I just got your email, by the way. Thanks. No, thank you. I just want to get to the bottom of this. You may not like what you find, John warned. I don't like what's going on now, I told him. See you this afternoon, buddy. We ended the call, and I pondered his words for a moment. I might not like what he uncovered, but that was better than the uncertainty I was living with. It was better to face the truth head-on and move forward. I showered, changed, and left a note on the kitchen counter for Donna, letting her know I would be gone until later. I met John outside the entrance to my office building. He handed me a box with 3 small motion-activated cameras that could be installed practically anywhere, even in smoke detectors. He also gave me a sheet detailing the installation process. I hope things work out for you, Jim. I'll get on this right away and let you know what I find out, he said. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. After he left, I went inside and found that some UPS batteries and several DVDs had been delivered while I was out. Checking my work email and our in-house ticketing system, I learned the upgrades and battery replacements were scheduled for that evening after normal banking hours. Looking at the clock, I realized I had just enough time to get home, set up the cameras, and grab a couple of hours of sleep. When I got home, I found that Donna still hadn't returned, so I grabbed my ladder and headed into the master bedroom, the place I had been exiled from. Out of curiosity, I looked in her hamper and found a pair of underwear that seemed suspicious. Disgusted, I shook off the thought and focused on my task. As I finished installing the camera in the smoke detector, Donna walked in. I immediately noticed a hint of cologne on her. "What are you doing in my room?" she asked. "Your room?" I responded, annoyed. Last I checked, my name is on the mortgage, which means I can go into any room I choose, including the master bedroom, the place where we used to sleep together. She recoiled slightly, surprised by my tone. I had to change the battery in the smoke detector. I'll be doing the same in the guest room and the living room. Okay, she said, but you don't have to be so sure with me. I said nothing and finished my work as she went into the bathroom to shower. I moved to the guest room, where I had been sleeping, and did the same there. After that, I headed to the living room. Once I finished, I put away the ladder and went into my office to check that the cameras were connecting to my server. It took a few minutes, but I was pleased with the results. The images were clear, and I could hear everything happening through the tiny microphones. I watched as Donna came out of the bathroom, dressed in jeans and a light sweatshirt. I hoped nothing incriminating would be caught on camera and that we could move forward. I have to go to the data center tonight to install some updates on our servers, I told Donna as I reached the top of the stairs. She seemed pleased to hear I would be gone. I'll probably be gone almost the whole night, so I'm going to grab a couple of hours of sleep first. Okay, she replied, walking off without any apparent concern, not even bothering to say goodnight. I couldn't help but recall a time when news like this would upset her. Shaking my head, I entered my room, trying to catch some rest. I woke up when my alarm went off and made my way to the bathroom to brush my teeth and take a quick shower. Dressed, I headed downstairs to prepare a sandwich and grab a cup of coffee for the road. Donna was sitting on the couch, silent. I felt the urge to reach out to her. "Donna," I called from the dining room table. She turned to look at me. "Do you still love me?" "Of course," she replied. "Why do you ask?" "I was just wondering," I said. "You never seem civil to me anymore. You don't even say you love me, and it feels like we're just roommates." Exasperated, she sighed. "Is that what's bothering you? The lack of intimacy?" "It has been a while, and we used to be close," I responded. "I'm just concerned that we're drifting apart." She nodded. "Maybe you're right. I'm sorry if I seem off lately. Once this is all over, maybe we can plan a nice vacation." "Yeah, that would be nice," I agreed, even though I didn't believe it would happen. "Look, I'm going to be out most of the night getting these updates done. I'll call you when I'm ready to come home." "Okay," she said, returning to her program. After finishing my meal, I headed into the office to check on my server, then grabbed my briefcase and locked the door. As I opened the front door to leave, I glanced back at Donna. "I'm headed out now. Love you." "Yeah, me too," she replied, not looking up. I stood there for a moment, realizing that was all I would get from her. There was a time when she would send me off with a warm kiss. Nodding my head, I closed the door behind me and got into my truck, my heart feeling heavy. The drive to the data center took a little over an hour. Once inside, I replaced the UPS batteries and started the upgrade script, knowing it would take several hours to complete. I grabbed some coffee and sat down at the desk, pulling out my personal laptop to log into my home server. I found several videos from earlier, so I checked them out. There wasn't anything unusual, just clips of me sleeping and Donna moving around the house. A few times, she pulled out her cell phone and appeared to be texting someone. I hadn't been able to check her phone since she always kept it with her, so I was curious about who she was communicating with. One short video showed Donna in the master bedroom, holding a wedding photo that usually sat on the dresser. I noted the timestamp, it was while I had been asleep. She looked at the photo wistfully before setting it face down on the dresser and leaving the room. Another video showed our earlier conversation, and I noticed how little emotion she displayed. When I said goodbye, she barely acknowledged me. It became interesting after I closed the door. She glanced at it for a moment, then got up to see if I had left. Once convinced I was gone for the evening, she took out her phone and made a call. "Hey, lover," she said, smiling. "Yeah, he's gone, probably all night. You ready to come over?" "Of course. Anywhere you want." "Just for you?" "Okay, I'm getting excited thinking about it. Love you, stud muffin. See you soon." I felt my heart sink. It was clear to me now that Donna no longer loved me and had found someone else. I watched as she went upstairs to the master bedroom, picked up our wedding photo, and giggled at it. "Don't you wish you were here to see me?" she asked, placing the picture face down. The next video showed her standing naked by the window. A few minutes later, a car pulled into the driveway. She opened the door, standing there without a stitch of clothing, as a man stepped onto the porch. He smiled and pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. She responded that it had been a long time since she had even touched me, let alone given me a kiss like that. I felt as if my heart was being ripped out of my chest. They came into the room, and I got a good look at the man's face. He looked somewhat familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. His dark hair was well cut and slicked back, making him look like someone you'd see in those pictures often put up in hair salons. That's when it hit me, he was a hairdresser who worked in the salon Donna managed. I vaguely remembered meeting him once before when I stopped by to see her. "So is the guy gone all night?" he asked her. "Yep, all night," she said with a huge smile. "Come on, let's go upstairs and celebrate. I'm so excited for you right now." Then they ran up the stairs into what used to be our master bedroom. The video ended, and I saw another had just been saved to the server, so I opened it. This video picked up where the previous one ended. Donna and her companion were in the bedroom, and she had gotten on the bed. "It's not our marital bed anymore," she said. "I kicked him out of the bedroom, just like you suggested. This is my bed now, or better yet, our bed, yours and mine." That explained a lot, I thought. They obviously had planned this out. "Too bad he isn't here to see a real man with you," he said with a wicked grin. She laughed, "Maybe later. Forget about him right now, I need you here with me." I can't begin to describe the emotions that went through me as I watched and listened to them belittle and mock me in my own house, in what I thought was my marital bed. Part of me was sad for the loss of what I once thought was a beautiful thing, the other part of me was filled with blind, seething hate and rage. After all the years I had given her, supported her, and taken care of her, this was the thanks I got. It was probably a good thing I wasn't there when this was happening. I thought I would have lost control in a way that would only land me in trouble, and I didn't want that. It's amazing how quickly a person's feelings can change. At that moment, I didn't see Donna as my soulmate, she certainly wasn't my wife. I had difficulty even thinking of her as a woman, she was just self-absorbed. I had to get away from this before I went crazy. I stopped the video and left the data center. I drove to a convenience store and bought a couple of packs of cigarettes and a 6-pack of soda. I would have bought some beer, but I still had a job to finish, and I needed to be able to drive back to the house. It had been years since I smoked, but I felt I needed one before I completely lost it. I sat in the truck and smoked a cigarette before heading back into the data center, thinking about what I needed to do. Divorce was a no-brainer, but it wouldn't be nearly enough. I needed to find some measure of revenge on Donna and her companion for what they were putting me through. But what could I do that wouldn't land me in jail? I went back in, checked on the updates, and then sat back down to finish watching the video. I've read stories where guys talk about feeling excited at seeing their attractive partners with someone else, but that didn't happen to me, thank goodness. Sure, Donna was a beautiful woman, but what I felt watching them wasn't excitement, it was pure hatred. What was worse than witnessing them together in the master bedroom, which used to be just for Donna and me, was listening to what they were saying. "You want me to have a baby?" he asked. "Yes, I want that," she replied. "What about your husband?" he questioned. "What about him?" she said dismissively. "I'll make him think it's his, and he'll have to raise it." "I like that idea," the man said. As she removed her rings and placed them in the palm of her hand, he told her, "God, you're bold." "That's why you love me, isn't it?" she asked. I yelled, cried, and raged. I wanted to throw my laptop against the wall. I couldn't believe the woman I had promised to love until the end was doing this to me, to us. I swore that whatever it took, I would get revenge on them both. As I watched the video, the two were cuddled up in what used to be my bed. "So tell me, Donna," he said, "why don't you just divorce your husband and come live with me?" "Oh, come on," she replied. "You think I'll give this up to live in that little trailer you call home? Look, I love you and I love our time together, but I can't afford to divorce him right now. I need the money." So I thought, that's all I am to her now, a source of financial support. I was done with that. I stopped the video and went online to check our account. I did the usual things, opened a new account in my name only and transferred half of all our money into it, then paid off and canceled our joint credit cards. I also went into our online HR page and removed her name from my retirement account. I would have taken her off my insurance, but I couldn't because it wasn't open enrollment, and I didn't have a final divorce decree according to HR's rules. Other than that, I did everything I could to separate her from me financially. One of the benefits of working for the same bank that held our account. I started the video again. "So are you telling me that once this pandemic is over and we're back to work, you'll divorce him?" he asked. "Yeah, by then I'll have more money saved up, and I can file for mental cruelty or something. I'm sure I can find a lawyer who'll take him down." "Not if I find one first," he replied. I thought, this looks like it's coming back to life. I couldn't take much more of this and fast-forwarded through this part of the video. After they were done, they lay back down in the bed and snuggled some more. So much for social distancing, I thought. After a while, they went to sleep, and it looked as though the night's events were over. I checked on the status of the updates. I figured they would be done in about an hour, so I sat back down and contemplated what I should do. After what I heard tonight, there was no way I could ever imagine being in the same house as Donna again. I had seen and heard enough, and I felt there was no need for John to follow Donna, so I came up with an idea. I spliced several pieces of video into one clip and sent it to every one of her family members, explaining that I would be getting a divorce and filing under adultery. By then, the updates were complete, so I tested the systems and verified everything was working as it should. I packed my things and headed back out to the truck, deciding to interrupt Donna's little gathering. I checked the time and found that it was only 1:30 a.m., which meant it would be about 2:30 by the time I got home. Donna wasn't expecting me until much later. Good, I thought with a wicked smile. I got in the truck, lit a cigarette, and headed out. It was actually 2:25 when I got home, so I turned off the headlights to avoid waking Donna or her companion. I parked in the driveway next to the car, not bothering to open the garage door. I went into the house, turned off the security system, and put my laptop bag in my office. Then, I slowly crept up the dark stairway and walked through the open master bedroom door. They were both sound asleep, their arms around each other. How touching, I thought. I stepped into the room and turned on the overhead light. "Get up! Get up! Get up!" I shouted, mimicking my drill instructors from boot camp. Surprised and scared, they jumped out of bed, confused about what was happening. "What the hell is going on in here?" I yelled at the top of my voice. "Oh my God!" Donna exclaimed when she realized it was me who woke them up. "Jim, what are you doing home? You were supposed to be at work all night." "I finished early and wanted to see my loving wife," I sneered. "But what do I find? My wife with her lover in my bed." Thad looked at me, terrified. "Man, I'm sorry," he stammered. I glared at him. "Just get your clothes on and get the hell out of my house." I roared. "You have 30 seconds, and 25 of them are already gone. Move!" He ran around like a chicken with its head cut off, scrambling to find his clothes. I turned to Donna. "Maybe I should call the mayor's tip line and report you for violating social distancing guidelines," I told her. "Pack your things and get out now." "Jim, please." "It's not what it looks like," she begged. I laughed in her face. "Oh, please spare me. You say you love him, go live with him." "But," she stammered. "No buts," I said. "Get out now. I'm no longer your source of support. You want to have children? Fine, go stay with him in his trailer. I'm seeing a lawyer about a divorce as soon as I can. Now get out. Don't make me repeat myself." "Wait, you know about," she began. "I saw and heard everything you two said and did tonight." Her eyes grew wide as she processed my words. "And right now, you make me want to puke." She started crying as the realization hit her. "Stop crying," I growled. "Pack your things and get out. Whatever you leave behind is either getting burned or thrown away." "You can't mean that," she cried. "Oh, yes I can, and I do," I told her. "I loved you exclusively, and you repaid me with lies and betrayal. Right now, I hate you with every fiber of my being. I never want to see you again as long as I live. Is that clear enough for you?" Sobbing from my verbal assault, she got out of bed and began packing while Thad was still trying to get dressed. I decided to enlist his help. "Help her pack, a-hole," I ordered. "What?" he asked, confused. "Are you stupid and deaf?" I snapped. "You can help her pack. I'll bring up some garbage bags, and you can start throwing her things in them. You're part of this, so you can do your part." I went downstairs and returned with several large plastic trash bags, tossing them on the bed. "Now get to it. You have 5 minutes. After that, everything else is getting tossed or burned." A few minutes later, Donna and Thad carried out several bags of her belongings, placing them in their respective vehicles. I found Donna's purse, pulled off her house key, and grabbed the garage door opener from her car. I removed my wedding ring and placed it in Donna's hand. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Don't you want this?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, not anymore. Now go. I assume you'll be living in a trailer, so I'll need you to serve there. Just leave me the address so I can give it to my attorney." She wrote down an address on a piece of paper and handed it to me. "I'm sorry," she said. "Yeah," I told her. "You are, and I'm sorry I ever laid eyes on you." Crying, she left the house. I watched as she and Thad drove off. I closed the door and locked it. Exhausted, I lay down on the couch and fell asleep. It was almost 8 a.m. when I woke up, realizing I had a lot to get done. I called my boss and asked for the week off, explaining what was going on. "No problem, Jim. You've got a ton of comp time coming to you anyway. Take what you need, and thanks for getting those updates finished last night." "You're welcome," I said before ending the call. I then called John to let him know there was no need for him to follow Donna, relating the events from earlier in the morning. "Damn, I'm sorry to hear that, Jim, but I'm glad you found out when you did. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you," I said. "Thanks. I'll get your equipment back to you, and we can settle up." We ended the call, and I refreshed my coffee. I began searching for a family law attorney and found one who worked from home. I called, and he agreed to meet with me through a teleconferencing system his firm had set up. After I received the email with the details, I signed in, and we were soon chatting face-to-face between our living rooms. I explained what happened and what I wanted, and he responded by detailing the divorce laws in our state. It turned out we lived in a no-fault state, meaning I couldn't file under adultery. However, her actions could and likely would be used to prevent her from receiving alimony or support. The downside was that I would probably have to sell the house and give her half the proceeds, which was fine with me since I really didn't want to stay in that place anymore. I'll get started on the paperwork and have her served in a couple of days, he said. I provided him with all the pertinent information, her address, place of business, and so on. Someone from our office will contact you from my retainer, he said. I'll be in touch. I thanked him, and we ended the call. I pulled down the cameras and then began gathering up what Donna had left behind, sorting it into 3 piles, one for the burn pit, another to toss out, and a third for Goodwill. It was nearly noon when my phone rang. I looked and saw it was her sister, Doreen. Jim, what's this about you tossing Donna out in the middle of the night? She asked, clearly angry. Did she tell you why I threw her out? I asked. She said it was just a misunderstanding. Check your email, I told her. Once you see what I sent, you'll know why. Goodbye, Doreen. I ended the call before she could respond. A few minutes later, I received another call, this time from her parents. I always liked them, and we got along quite well. Jim, I got a strange call from Donna, her father, Alan, said. She tells us you threw her out of the house at 2:30 in the morning. Is that true? Yes, Alan, it is. Why in the world would you do something like that? He asked. Did you check your email? I asked him. No, I didn't. Check your email and you'll know why. Talk to you later, Alan. Give my best to Linda. Linda was Donna's mother, and I loved her like my own. I kept working, and the piles were growing as I sorted through all of Donna's things. About an hour later, I got another call. It was Doreen again. Jim, I just watched that video, and I'm so sorry, she said. She made it sound like you were being unreasonable and tossed her out for no good reason. Do you know who that is she's with? I asked. Yeah, that's Ronnie, she said. He worked at Donna's hair salon before it closed. She confessed to me that they've been involved for quite a while, even before the pandemic. That's wonderful, I told her. Listen, she asked if I could pick up some of her things, Doreen said. Do you think I could swing by and get them? I'm sorting through what she has here. A lot of it is going to Goodwill, and the rest is getting thrown out or burned. Burned? She asked, shocked. Yeah, like her wedding dress and all of our photos, things like that. You're going to burn her wedding dress? She asked, surprised. Absolutely. Please don't burn anything or throw anything away until I get there, she begged. I may want to keep some of that stuff myself. Like I said, you'd better hurry, I told her. I'll be right over, she said. I stopped and went out back for a cigarette and a cup of coffee. Just as I sat down and lit up, my phone rang again. Damn, won't these people just leave me alone? I thought to myself. I looked and saw it was Alan again, so I answered. Hey, Alan. Jim, I owe you a huge apology. I saw that video, and I've never been more disgusted in my entire life. Those were just the lowlights, if you know what I mean, I said. I have a lot more of that stuff. We've seen all we need to. Linda's a mess over all this. We let Donna know in no uncertain terms that she's not welcome here anymore. Look, Jim, we both think the world of you. If there's anything you ever need from us, just call, okay? Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that. We ended the call, and I went back inside. By then, Doreen was knocking on the door. I opened it and saw her standing there in a pair of short shorts and a casual t-shirt. Hi, Doreen, come on in. She entered the house, flipping her long blonde hair back over her shoulders. I'm sorting her stuff upstairs if you want to come up and go through it. That sounds good, she responded. I picked up a trash bag and handed it to her. She smiled as she took it. What is this? What passes for luggage in your house now? I laughed. Yeah, and she's lucky I'm using a clean bag. We both chuckled and went upstairs, where she started looking through the piles of stuff, tossing quite a bit into the back. She wasn't very careful with it. When she saw Donna's rings sitting on the nightstand, she said, she left her rings here. I nodded as she reached out for them. You might want to disinfect them first, I joked. That's gross. No way am I touching those things. What are you going to do with them? I shrugged. I don't know. I was thinking about cleaning them and then selling them at a pawn shop or something. They're worthless to me, and they obviously don't mean anything to Donna anymore. Obviously, she said. Well, I'll let you grab what you want. I'm going out back for a bit. Feel free to come out if you want to talk or something. Okay, I said. I warmed up my coffee and went out back for another cigarette. A few minutes later, Doreen stuck her head out. Mind if I join you? Not at all, I replied. She came out and sat in a chair opposite me. I didn't know you smoked. I quit some time ago but started back up last night after I saw that video. Nasty habit. Mind if I join you? It's a free country. I was surprised that she smoked too. She pulled a pack out of her purse, and I offered her a light. She leaned back and looked at me before speaking. My sister is an idiot. I can't believe she treated you as bad as she did. You don't know the half of it, I replied, telling her how Donna kept us apart, claiming it was because of the virus. In reality, it was meant to keep me away from her. She's not just an idiot, she's a stupid idiot, Doreen said. After a moment, I sensed a shift in her demeanor. You know, I've had a crush on you from the moment I first met you. Really? I asked, though I had suspected it. She had always been quite flirty with me when we were together, and I knew it irritated Donna to no end, but I never encouraged it. I've always thought the world of you too, I said. She smiled and continued, I'm not my sister. I know we grew up together, but she's always been self-centered and a bit narcissistic. I can't tell you how many times she got me in trouble with our parents. Honestly, I'm surprised the two of you lasted as long as you did. Why is that? She was always changing boyfriends when we were younger. She'd hook up with a guy, and it would last maybe a few months before she was off with someone else. Every guy she had dumped her like a sack of potatoes. I wish I had known that before I married her, I said, reflecting on the missed warning signs. I almost did warn you, Doreen admitted. But you seemed so in love with her, I didn't think you'd believe me. I nodded in agreement. You're probably right. I did love her once, and I probably would have thought you were just trying to split us up so you could move in. I did warn her, though, Doreen added. I told her if she ever hurt you in any way, I would make her pay. She promised me she would never treat you that way. Have you thought about revenge? She asked. It's crossed my mind, I admitted. I spoke to a divorce attorney this morning, and he's starting the paperwork. But is that all? She pressed. I knew what she was hinting at, but I wasn't ready to entertain those thoughts just yet. Yeah, but I'd end up in jail, I replied, trying to lighten the mood. That's not what I had in mind, she said with a laugh. I could feel the tension shift again. I could probably have her right then and there, but it's too soon. I'm still legally married. The divorce papers haven't even been served yet. Good answer, she replied, her smile widening. That's okay, I've waited 5 years, so I guess I can wait a bit longer. Are you staking a claim or something? Damn right I am, she said confidently. Donna screwed up big time, but like I said, I'm not my sister. I'm strictly a one-man woman, always have been. I smiled back at her. That's good to hear, but I'm a bit surprised. I figured you'd have men lining up. Nah, most of the guys I know are either a-holes, stuck on themselves, or mama's boys. That's a shame, I said. Not really, she replied. The truth is, none of them can hold a candle to you. I just want to know one thing. What's that? Is there any chance you'll take her back? I shook my head. No, none whatsoever. She burned that bridge good last night. Too bad for her, Doreen said, glancing at her watch. I've got to get going. I promised Donna I'd return her things this afternoon. Is there anything you want me to tell her? Tell her I spoke to a lawyer this morning, and she can expect to be served in a couple of days or so. I'll tell her. She stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me. I really am sorry about what she did to you. Thanks. I'll be okay, though. Let me give you something to help take your mind off things. I started to say something, but then I found myself caught in a deep kiss, the softness of her lips lingering as she pulled away. Are you on Skype? She asked. Yes, I am. I wrote down my Skype handle and handed it to her. Good. I'll meet you on Skype this evening, and I'll let you know how it went. Okay, yeah, I look forward to that. I helped her carry the rest of Donna's things to her car and kissed her lightly after she got in. I watched her drive away, then went back inside. I hoped I wasn't jumping from one difficult situation into another, but I didn't see any deception on her part at all. I grabbed another soda and started for the back door when my phone rang again. This time it was Donna. What did she want? What do you want? I asked when I answered the call. You scumsucker, she screamed. How could you do that to me? Do what? You know what, she yelled. You sent that horrible video to my parents and my sister. Now they all hate me. Why did you do that? Why do you think? I asked. As I recall, it was you who cheated on me. It was you who lied to me and stabbed me in the back. I loved you exclusively for years, and you do this to me? You actually thought you could get me to raise Ronnie's child? Screw you! Stop calling me that, she shouted. I knew she hated that word, which is why I used it, but I didn't care. Isn't that what you are? A worthless, no good, lying cheat? Face it, that's all you've ever been, and that's all you'll ever be. We're finished. I spoke to a lawyer this morning, and you can expect to be served with divorce papers in a couple of days or so. Meanwhile, I don't want to hear or see you ever again. Jim, please. I'm begging you, she cried. I'm so sorry for what I did. We can work through this. No, we can't. You destroyed me with your cheating, and I'm through putting up with it. You made your choice, now you get to deal with it. Goodbye. And I'm serious when I say I hope to God I never see you alive ever again. I thought I heard a sob, but I frankly didn't care. I ended the call and instantly blocked her number. Later that evening, Doreen contacted me on Skype. From what she told me, Donna wasn't too thrilled with the condition her things were in. Too bad, I thought. I told Doreen about Donna's call, and she had a good laugh. It serves her right, she said. We talked a bit longer before we ended the call. I thanked her for everything she had done, it meant a lot to me. It's my pleasure, she said sweetly. I'll be in touch. After we said our goodbyes, I found myself imagining spending more time with Doreen. The next day, I finished sorting through the rest of Donna's things. I cleaned her rings, then took the pile of items going to Goodwill and loaded them into the truck, stuffing it all into trash bags. After dropping off the bags, I stopped at a pawn shop and sold her rings, getting a fraction of what I had paid for them 5 years ago. Oh well, I thought, if Donna wants them, she can go buy them back. I even mailed the pawn ticket to her at Ronnie's trailer so she could get them if she chose. I figured she would get the ticket in a day or two, so there might be a chance she could still retrieve them. I'm not completely heartless, after all. I called John and arranged to return the surveillance gear he let me use. Getting back home, I tore the bed down and put it in the front yard along with the dresser and nightstands. I put a sign on it saying free. Within a couple of hours, it was all gone. I gathered the rest of the items, which included her wedding dress and all the photos that included her image, and carried them out back. I pulled a 50-gallon drum out of the garage, stuffed everything inside, soaked it down, and set it on fire. I stayed with the drum until everything had burned to ash, then made sure the fire was completely extinguished and placed a lid on the drum. I decided to leave it there until it cooled off enough to move. I went back inside and looked around to make sure I had removed everything that might remind me of Donna. It looked a bit bare, but I figured it was worth it not to be reminded of her. By then, it was evening, and I was exhausted, so I fried up some hot dogs and watched a bit of TV before going to bed. I slept in the next day but still got quite a bit done. I opened the windows in the now empty master bedroom to air it out, then grabbed some spackle and filled in the nail holes. I grabbed the carpet shampoo machine and cleaned the carpet as best as I could. It was late afternoon by the time I finished all that. While I was in the garage cleaning out the shampoo machine, I saw Ronnie's car pull up out front. I opened the garage door and grabbed a baseball bat I had by the back door. I stood by the open garage door and saw them get out of the vehicle and start walking to the front door. I stepped out and stopped them. "What do you want?" I asked. Donna looked at me and held up 2 envelopes. "What is this?" she asked. "If I'm not mistaken, those are divorce papers," I said. "Sign them and send them back. I've been more than fair, so the sooner you do that, the sooner we can end this sham of a marriage. And don't fight me on this, I'm prepared to use the video I captured of the 2 of you in our bed." "Well, what's this?" she asked, holding up a smaller envelope. I recognized it as the one I mailed to her earlier. "That looks like a pawn ticket. I got rid of your rings. I took a loss on them, but I guess that's just the way it goes. I sent you the ticket in case you wanted to buy them back. I don't want them, and from what I saw, you didn't care about them either. I suspect the judge will understand why I did what I did." "You scum," she cried. "Do you really hate me that much?" "Yes, I do," I told her. "What else did you do?" "I got rid of the rest of your stuff, just like I promised. I gave away the bedroom set and sent everything else to Goodwill, and I burned the rest." "Burned?" she asked, tears falling down her cheeks. "What did you burn?" "Your wedding dress. Any pictures that included you. Just junk." "You actually burned my wedding dress?" she said. "Yep. You want the ashes or something?" She broke down sobbing as Ronnie held her. He looked at me before speaking. "You really are heartless," he said. "Yeah, I am, especially when someone I once loved with all my heart stabs me in the back like she did. I should warn you, though, she's likely to cheat on you before too long, so don't get too used to having her around. Now get the hell off my lawn and out of my neighborhood." He turned her around and guided her back to his car. She turned to look at me before she got inside. She started to say something, but I cut her off. "By the way, you 2 look to be a lot closer than 6 feet, and neither of you is wearing masks. Maybe I'd better call the mayor's hotline and report the 2 of you." I pulled out my phone and acted as though I was actually going to call. She sobbed as she got in the car and closed the door. Ronnie got in and took off, squealing his tires. I smiled and put my phone back in my pocket. I figured she would probably fight the divorce, so I was surprised when I got a call from my lawyer the next morning telling me she had signed the papers and dropped them off at his firm. "I got them filed, and we have a tentative court date set for 2 weeks from today," he said. "Fortunately, the court in this county is a lot more technologically advanced than many others, and this can be done online. Since she doesn't appear to be contesting it, I've sent both you and Donna information on how to access that system. I've also sent a copy of your video to the judge so he can take a look at it. I have a feeling things will work out well for you." "Thanks," I said before ending the call. About 2:30, I got a call from Doreen. "How's it going?" "I hear Donna got served," she said. "Yeah, she did. The lawyer called and said she signed the papers and returned them. We have an online hearing set for 2 weeks from today." "Good. Donna also told me what you did with her rings and wedding dress." "Yeah, not exactly 2 of my finer moments, but it was something I felt I had to do." "I can understand that," she said. "I actually don't blame you. I would probably have done something similar. So are you up to having some company for dinner tonight?" "Actually, I am," I told her. "What did you have in mind?" "Well, I thought I'd make you some of my world-famous lasagna and garlic toast," she said. "Think you can rustle up some wine?" "Lasagna, huh?" I asked. "My favorite." "Yeah, I think I can manage some wine." "Good. I'll be there about 6:30 if that works for you." "I look forward to it," I said. We talked for a while, then ended the call. Afterward, I headed out to grab a bottle of wine, stopped to buy some flowers, then came back and jumped in the shower. I shaved and dressed, putting on a clean pair of jeans and a polo shirt. I saw that I had a little bit of time before Doreen arrived, so I pulled out the good dinnerware set the table, and placed some candles in the center. I felt a bit like a high school boy wanting to impress his first date. I had just lit the candles when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and invited Doreen in, taking the hot lasagna from her and setting it down on a heat rack I had already placed on the table. She put the garlic bread on a large plate I had set out for it. As she did, I took in her dress. She looked absolutely stunning in her short black dress. As she dished out the lasagna, I poured us each a glass of wine and then held out her chair. She smiled sweetly and sat down, giving me a good look. "You look every bit as delicious as this lasagna does," I told her. She smiled up at me. "Well, thank you," she said. "And you look pretty fetching yourself in that polo shirt. By the way, I like what you've done with the place. I don't see anything that suggests Donna ever lived here." That was the idea. I took a bite of the lasagna and felt like I was in heaven. "This is the best lasagna I have ever eaten," I told her. "I'm glad you like it," she said. "Just wait until you see what I brought for dessert," Doreen said, and I suddenly realized what she meant. A smile spread across my face, and I was eager to see what she had planned. After we finished our meal, Doreen helped me clear the table. Then, she turned to me and reached up to untie her dress. For a moment, I was taken aback, mesmerized by her beauty. "What's the matter?" she asked playfully. "Haven't you ever seen a woman without her dress before?" "Not one as stunning as you," I finally managed to respond. She kissed me deeply, igniting a rush of warmth. "Are you ready for dessert?" I had never experienced anything quite like this before. Wrapped in her embrace, I felt a connection that was deeper than anything I had shared with Donna. "I love you, Jim," she said, breaking the kiss. "I've always loved you, and I always will. I promise to be yours as long as you'll have me." I smiled at her, feeling a surge of affection. "I love you too, Doreen. I wish I'd met you before Donna." She smiled back at me, and then added, "There's something I want to do." "Of course. What is it?" "Let's go upstairs," she suggested. We climbed the stairs hand in hand and entered the guest bedroom. Though the bed was smaller than the one in the master suite, it was perfect for the two of us. We shared a beautiful night together, drifting off to sleep in each other's arms. The next morning, I awoke feeling rejuvenated, and I had Doreen to thank for that. We headed downstairs, where I brewed coffee while she prepared breakfast. Sitting at the counter, I couldn't help but admire her as she cooked. "I could get used to this," I said, watching her with a smile. "I hope so, cowboy," she replied, returning my grin. "Because I intend to do this every chance I get." As we ate, she mentioned her plans for the day. "I need to start getting the place ready to sell. I suspect the court will order it sold anyway." I nodded, remembering how empty the master bedroom felt. "Are you going to replace the furniture?" "Eventually, but not until I know what's happening with the house," I replied. Doreen had an idea. "How about I bring a few things from my apartment and stay here to help you get ready for the market? We can spend more time together and get to know each other better." I thought for a moment. "I like that idea. We just need to be cautious. I don't want Donna to file against me." "You're right," she agreed. "But I don't think that will be an issue. I suspect she's accepted that things are over between you two. If anyone asks, I'll just say I'm here to help you through this." "Consider it a deal," I said, and she leaned in for a kiss. "I meant what I said last night," she said softly. "I love you. I'll always be here for you, no matter what." "I love you too, Doreen," I replied, feeling genuine warmth for her. I hoped this wasn't just a rebound relationship. After some quick arrangements, she got dressed and headed out. The following weeks were wonderful. Doreen spent most nights with me, helping me manage the house and make it feel like home again. We painted the walls and found a rhythm that worked for both of us. Even when I had to work late or travel for my job, she understood and was perfectly fine with it. We would stay in touch over Skype until she had to go to bed. The most important thing for me was developing trust, and Doreen seemed to sense that without me saying anything. Whenever I had to work, I made it a habit to let her know, either with a call or a text. She would do the same if she needed to run to the store or head back to her apartment. By the end of the 2 weeks, it felt like second nature to us both. It would be an understatement to say that she went a long way toward healing my heart over those 2 weeks. It almost felt like a pre-honeymoon, and we learned a lot about each other. It turned out we had a lot in common, even in our taste in music. Eventually, the date for our online hearing rolled around. I was surprised that Donna hadn't tried to contact me during the previous 2 weeks, but I really didn't mind that she hadn't reached out. Doreen came by and sat off to the side to listen in. I dressed for the online meeting and listened as my lawyer explained what would happen. Since Donna wasn't contesting anything, the hearing should be over in about 15 minutes. Nevertheless, the judge had allowed for a full hour just in case. "Between you and me, I think he likes to take a break between these things," my lawyer said. Soon everyone was online: the judge, the bailiff, the court reporter, myself, and my attorney. However, Donna was not online. "Mr. Winthrop," the judge said, "do you have any reason why Mrs. Fielding isn't online?" "No, Your Honor, I don't," my lawyer replied. "I sent her an email with the instructions a couple of days ago, but I haven't heard from her." "Mr. Fielding, have you heard from your wife?" the judge asked. "No, sir, I haven't." "All right," he said, "Bailiff, I want you to contact the sheriff's office. Get them out to Mrs. Fielding's address immediately. If there's no good reason for her not to be online, have her taken into custody." "Yes, sir," the bailiff replied. We sat around, cooling our heels, waiting for something to happen. Finally, after about 45 minutes, the bailiff returned. "Your Honor, I just heard from the deputies who were dispatched to Mrs. Fielding's residence. According to them, both Mrs. Fielding and her companion were found deceased. The medical examiner has been called to the location." "I see," the judge said. "Thank you, bailiff. Mr. Fielding, it appears your petition for divorce has been rendered moot by your wife's untimely death. I will wait until I receive official word from the medical examiner before I officially close the case. In the meantime, please accept my condolences and the condolences of the court for your loss." "Thank you, Your Honor," I replied. The judge, bailiff, and the reporter left the call, leaving just me and my attorney. "I'm sorry about this, Mr. Fielding," he said. "If you like, I can take care of your wife's probate." "I assume she didn't have a will?" "No, she didn't," I said. "Thanks." I held Doreen as she cried over Donna's death. I felt a bit of sadness as well. Thanks to Doreen, I no longer hated Donna, but I still despised what she had done. Then I remembered telling Donna that I wished never to see her alive again, and I felt a pang of guilt. It was something said in anger, but it still ate at me. A couple of weeks later, the state began reopening, and life started to return to some semblance of normalcy. The autopsy on Donna and her lover revealed that both of them had died from the coronavirus. However, the medical examiner found that both had taken large quantities of illegal drugs. The report also indicated that Donna was pregnant, no doubt with her lover's child. For some reason, neither of them had thought to go to the hospital. I agreed to attend the funeral, mostly to support Doreen and her parents. Fortunately, I had taken out a term life insurance policy on both Donna and me through the bank, so her final expenses were more than covered. Alan and Linda were both happy to learn that Doreen and I were together as a couple. I'm still not sure where our relationship is going, but I suspect I'll be popping the question before too long. Right now, she's showing me just how much she loves me, and I have to admit I'm enjoying it. So, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to concentrate on this beautiful woman for a while. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.